That night remains etched in my memory with a vivid clarity that still stirs something deep within me. It all began so innocently, yet unfolded in a way I never expected. One that would alter my perception of myself and those around me. My name is Harper, and today, at 44, I am sharing a story that changed my life in an unimaginable way. The evening had been delightful. I had invited my daughter and her boyfriend, my son-in-law, to dinner, believing it would be a wonderful opportunity to get to know him better. The table was set beautifully, the air filled with the comforting aroma of home-cooked food, and laughter danced between us as we enjoyed the meal. My daughter radiated happiness, and her boyfriend, a charming young man with a natural charisma, complimented her perfectly. The way they exchanged glances, subtle yet profound, spoke of a deep affection. It was a sight that warmed my heart. As the night grew late, I suggested he stay over instead of traveling back on the dangerous road. My daughter immediately agreed, flashing a warm smile, and he too accepted the idea with ease. Everything seemed just as it should be, until I caught a fleeting glimpse of something unusual in my daughter's expression. A shadow of unease passed across her face, a moment of hesitation that she quickly tried to mask. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was bothering her. Was it stress from school? A trivial misunderstanding between them? The ambiguity gnawed at me, but I chose to hold my silence, deciding to wait until we were alone before addressing it. As she busied herself in the kitchen, her movements seemed forced, almost mechanical. She was clearly burdened by something, and my concern deepened. Unable to ignore it any longer, I finally asked, "Are you sure everything is all right, sweetheart?" She hesitated, exhaling a long breath as she met my gaze. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth, held something else that night. Discomfort, perhaps even disappointment. "Mother," she began, but then stopped, as if battling with herself over whether to speak further. I reached out, cupping her face gently, offering reassurance without words. She closed her eyes for a moment, gathering the courage to continue. And then she said something that sent a shiver through me. "It's that he still looks at you." For a moment, my heart stopped. A strange, unfamiliar sensation coursed through me. I had noticed his gaze lingering on me more than once that evening, but I had brushed it off as nothing, perhaps simple admiration or mere coincidence. But hearing my daughter say it, to confirm what I had ignored, made it all the more real. I fought to keep my expression neutral, not wanting to alarm her. "Maybe he's just nervous," I suggested, hoping to ease her mind. Yet, deep inside, I knew this was not just her imagination. There had been something different in the way he looked at me, a certain intensity, a lingering fascination. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and she sighed again. "This isn't the first time, Mom. It's just, this time I really noticed it. Maybe I'm overthinking, but I think he sees you differently." I stayed silent, absorbing her words, feeling the weight of them settle inside me. The sincerity in her voice left no room for dismissal. She had seen it, just as I had. Placing a hand over hers, I spoke gently, choosing my words carefully. "Sweetheart, men sometimes have fleeting moments of attraction, but it doesn't mean anything. You shouldn't worry yourself over something so small." I wanted to reassure her, to give her peace of mind. Yet even as I spoke, I knew the truth, that I had noticed, and that a part of me had not been entirely indifferent to it. That realization unsettled me. Throughout dinner, I had observed him, not just as my daughter's boyfriend, but as a man. He was undeniably handsome, his sharp features complemented by a captivating smile and a physique that exuded strength. He carried himself with confidence, his words intelligent and engaging. He had made an impression on me, and I could not deny it. At one point during the meal, the thought had crossed my mind. Had I been younger, I might have found myself drawn to him. I had laughed it off then, passing it off as nothing more than a fleeting joke. But now, reflecting on the way he had looked at me, I found myself questioning whether there was more to it than just admiration. After dinner, as my daughter and I cleaned the kitchen, I found my thoughts tangled in a web of confusion and guilt. Was I imagining things? Was I allowing my mind to wander into forbidden territory? He was my daughter's partner, someone much younger than me. Yet, against all reason, I had felt something stir inside me. I shook my head, trying to banish the thoughts. This was ridiculous. It was inappropriate. It was wrong. And yet, as much as I tried to push it away, the undeniable truth remained. I had felt butterflies. The air in the living room was filled with soft laughter and quiet conversation as I stepped back in. My daughter and her boyfriend sat close together on the couch, their bodies angled toward each other in a way that spoke of deep familiarity. I paused for a moment, watching them, feeling a flicker of something unexpected: envy. Not of their youth, nor of their love, but of the way he made me feel. It had been so long since someone had looked at me the way he did. Even if it was fleeting, even if it was forbidden. He turned as I approached, his broad smile both warm and disarming. "Thank you, mother-in-law, for inviting me to dinner. It was a wonderful evening," he said, his voice rich with sincerity. I returned his smile, careful to keep my thoughts from betraying me. "Having you here makes me very happy. Our home is always open to you." My words were kind, innocent on the surface, yet there was an undercurrent to them, something unspoken, something we both felt. For the briefest second, my daughter glanced at me, curious, maybe even suspicious, but she said nothing. Instead, she turned to him, touching his arm lightly, and bid us good night. She was retiring to the guest room, leaving me alone with the man whose presence stirred something I struggled to ignore. I watched her disappear down the hallway, her steps light, unaware of the storm brewing within me. I retreated upstairs, my body heavy with exhaustion, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. The evening had been pleasant, yet it had left behind an unease, an unspoken tension that clung to the air long after the words had faded. As I slipped off my shoes and headed for the bathroom, I longed for the warmth of the water to wash away the turmoil inside me. The shower was a welcome relief. The steam curled around me, the hot water cascading down my body, easing the tension from my muscles. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to drift, to let my thoughts wander to places I knew they shouldn't. It was impossible not to. The way he had looked at me, the lingering stares, the unspoken attraction, I could feel it in my bones. I tried to shake it off, to tell myself it was nothing, but then a strange sensation crept over me. A chill ran down my spine, cutting through the heat of the water. I opened my eyes, peering through the misted air, my heart pounding at the uneasy feeling that I wasn't alone. I turned toward the mirror, its surface fogged, distorting my reflection into a ghostly blur. My breath hitched as the feeling of being watched tightened around me. I shook my head, forcing a soft laugh. It was just my mind playing tricks on me, twisting my thoughts into shadows. Still, I couldn't shake the sensation, the creeping thrill of the idea that someone, he, might be there just beyond the veil of steam. A forbidden part of me didn't find the thought entirely unwelcome. I wrapped a towel around myself and stepped into the hallway, glancing around before making my way to my room. The house was silent, yet the atmosphere crackled with something unseen. Was he still awake? Had he truly seen me, or was it merely a figment of my restless imagination? The thought made my pulse quicken. I told myself it was absurd, that I was reading too much into fleeting moments. And yet, deep inside, a wicked thrill coursed through me. The idea that he might have been drawn to me, that he might have been unable to look away, sent a dangerous heat rushing through my veins. I slipped beneath the covers, my skin still warm from the shower, my mind unable to quiet itself. I told myself to let it go, to push the thoughts away. But even as exhaustion began to pull me under, the tension remained, lingering in the space between dreams and reality. A touch. Soft, barely there, yet real enough to jolt me awake. I blinked into the darkness, my heart hammering as my eyes adjusted. And then there he was, standing beside my bed, his silhouette faintly illuminated by the moonlight streaming through the window. For a moment, I could do nothing but stare, my breath caught in my throat. My voice came out a whisper, tinged with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gazed at me, his expression unreadable, his eyes dark with something I dared not name. When he finally spoke, his voice was husky, low, dangerously soft. "She's asleep," he murmured. "And I think we should enjoy this moment." A sharp inhale, a warning flashing in my mind. But my fingers had already moved on their own, reaching out, circling his wrist. The air between us was thick, electric, suffocating in the best way. He stepped forward. And just like that, we unraveled. The tension that had simmered for too long exploded into something neither of us could resist. The walls around us melted away, leaving only the dark, the heat, and the undeniable pull that had been there all along. The weight of consequence dissolved beneath the weight of his touch, and for the first time in years, I felt something I had thought was lost to time. When it was over, when reality began to seep back in, I knew what I should say. That this was a mistake. That it should never happen again. And yet, as he gathered himself, slipping away into the night, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. He had awakened something in me, something buried beneath years of duty and restraint. And in that moment, for better or worse, I had embraced it.